Scott works for the Ohio Department of Transportation, of course, Office of Maintenance Operation as a field operations section head. His duties include oversight of ODOT's vegetation management program, roadside planting program, snow and ice control maintenance, research projects, and force account reviews. Scott has been employed with ODOT for 24 years and trains classes on vegetation management, snow and ice removal, and some highway technician classes. Scott holds an associate degree in civil engineering from Columbus State, bachelor's degree in applied management, and an MBA from Franklin University, and is also a certified public manager.
Yeah, I need to work on shortening that bio. It's a lot. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a very enlightening kind of a conference I've been here so far. Really love research, work a lot with research and that. As a couple of things I laid on the table there, I'm also the Clear Roads rep for the Ohio Department of Transportation. Clear Roads is a group that does a lot of winter studies for research, and also Ohio is the No Boundaries lead state for that research program. We're looking for the state members in that. So I have some information laid out there on the table for you. Please feel free to take that after the presentation. Today what I'm going to talk about is a research project we actually did internally at ODOT. It's on our vegetation management research. And basically what we wanted to do, we wanted to evaluate a couple different things on how we do vegetation management. We're looking at what we do internally in the house here at ODOT, and then look for other better opportunities out there. And we kind of broke it down in two phases, and I'll kind of talk about those phases. Davie Resource Group was the selected vendor for this, and in our research, we're currently still working with this program. It isn't finished yet, but we're constantly gathering data. Go through this. So we really wanted to look at all the different integrated vegetation management, all the different tools that's put into that to really manage vegetation in the most cost-effective, environmentally friendly, safe way for our operators. And so we looked at a lot of different things with this. We want to save a lot, said labor savings, and look at the kind of equipment that really kind of had the biggest bang for the buck for what we're using. And like I said, the safety not only for our motorists, our workers, but also the motorists out there on the motoring public. We were looking at different ways to control vegetation, woody vegetation, 2 inches to 8 inches in diameter, or DBH or dead breast height, and also on slopes, and also some vegetation bigger than that. Because that's really on the slopes areas where we have a lot of injuries at, people slipping and sliding with mechanical devices out there to remove vegetation. So we're looking at something that can help us with those areas. One of the first things we did in our task one was we looked at conducting a literature research to find out really what was out there. So we looked at all the different states, all the different universities and studies in that, trying to gather that information. We analyzed ODOT's current equipment, what we have here in-house, our procedures, and kind of looked at our guys and interviewed folks out there to see what they did out there in the field. And looked at all of our manuals also out there for our vegetation management manuals, see what kind of recommendations we already had in-house to see how that compared against what others in the industry, other state agencies, and other research actually looked at. We also participated in field reviews, or actually Davie did, and watching our guys work out there to physically see if they actually were following those manual procedures and the equipment we had, and how they were using that equipment, if they were using it a different way or doing different processes. What they did then, they kind of prepared a matrix of all these alternative different vegetation management practices and kind of laid them out for these different control measures. And had a review panel from a lot of our different districts. We had 6 different districts were involved in all this, and have them kind of look at all those different procedures out there and kind of make a determination what they really felt the best direction to go for the next phase. So like I said, we looked at all that kind of stuff, we kind of put everything together, and kind of that next phase process kind of put together for that, for what we're going to do and where we're going to go. So like I said, I looked at utilizing new mechanical methods, a lot of new machinery out on the market right now that a lot of our guys were looking into, but didn't really want to go ahead and buy 12 of them for all of our districts. So we want to look at which ones were the kind of best to meet the needs of what the guys are looking for. Also to extend our maintenance cycle, that was a big thing out there too. We had a lot of time where we wouldn't be able to get on the roadways because of other things we were doing out there, or we didn't want to get off the roadway because we would tear up our ditches, so maybe something we could do from the pavement side and be able to do that kind of work out there. So it kind of extend the kind of things we would do if we had different types of equipment to do those things. Always safety for the workers and the users out there for the highway, because the further away you can get that individual from that cutting head of that piece of equipment or machinery and that, it's going to be usually a lot safer for that worker out there on the roadway. That's one thing we're looking at for that too. Kind of confirm our ODOT equipment and chemical purchases. Kind of look at what we were doing, see if maybe we already have a lot of good things in practice already. We don't lose that and think we have to go a whole different direction. We also had tech briefs, and this is something I was a big fan of, is to go out there and as we was going through these different experiments and showing doing the different tests with Davey, we'd bring our folks out there and have them actually go out there and see what the results of these different pieces of equipment running, chemicals we applied for herbicides out there, and let them see what the true results were of those different tests out there. So that was a big thing I think the guys really enjoyed out there, and we're continuing doing those and asking their feedback, and that's actually even kind of molding or slightly tweaking the research as it goes forward and what the end deliverables will be. Like I said, field testing of all those different mechanical and chemical methods when we're doing those tech briefs, and we're having to have communication and reporting after the end of all this here. And like I said, to provide those tools to determine the most appropriate method of control. That's one of the big deliverables we're looking for, is what's really going to get the biggest bang for a buck and all that. And also develop a matrix of current processes. And then actually then kind of infiltrate that with the new processes we're going to be kind of going forward to kind of give guidance to the managers out there on what type of equipment and herbicides and things like that to use out there to maintain the vegetation. There's alternate solutions there. And this is just a kind of layout of Ohio. We have 12 districts. Like I said, districts 4, 11, 5, 10, 7, and 8 were all involved in this project. A little bit of District 3 also involved in it. So it was one of our biggest projects we had actually statewide from an impact for vegetation management. So it was a very large project. This is one of our first things we worked with. It was our kind of a sprayer unit. The sprayer was actually part of a research project, some of the different heads and the technology inside of it, but one of the things I thought was very innovative, and one of our guys did, was he had an old street sweeper, and was getting ready to go on a sale, so he was able to pull that out. The sweeper unit was bad and be on repair, but he was able to salvage the truck itself, had a refurb to a point, and then also then put a spray unit on it. And one of the nice things about having the street sweeper on that one, you do have the dual steering functions in it, so it allows the operator to get closer to the guardrail or the area they're spraying a lot better that way. They have newer technology, type spray nozzles, boominator nozzles on that to be able to get a more precise reading, and also it's Raven systems like they have in agriculture to be able to track that flow rate of the herbicide coming out to have a better analysis of exactly what kind of chemistry is being put on the roadway to control the vegetation. One of the other things we're testing out, and it's looked at looks pretty good here, is a mechanical guardrail trimmer. Just kind of a shot of it here. It's kind of the spider trimmer. The booms actually raise out and down around the guardrail, so you can avoid signposts and things like that around the rail. We've got a video clip of it here. Hope this will run. And as you see, it's cutting on both sides of the rail. This is actually a cable rail system. It'll do guardrail the same way. It keeps our people from getting too close to the systems out there. I'm trying to turn this sound down a little bit because I don't think you need that. Okay. But it'll help out there for, like I said, control the different vegetation out there without having to completely take away all the vegetation, because we do remove vegetation in this area, we'll have erosion issues, and some of those systems will be pulling out of the ground. So it's something that we're looking at. We have a few tweaks with it, but so far the operators seem to really like that. Just kind of another picture. This is more of the travel mode for the rail trimmer. This is another one of our mulchers. This and all these different pieces of equipment here were purchased through research, through the Federal Research Project and that. So we do get equipment with it. I mean, it's to really to look at the research to see how this equipment is applicable to what we do at ODOT. But that was a nice thing about having the research project to be able to purchase a lot of these different types of equipment. This is the Brontosaurus Head. It's just the head piece on the end of the excavator. You know, high flow excavator to run this. And it does a pretty good job of grinding trees here. See if I can get the slide to run here. Okay. That's what I was afraid of. It's hanging up on me. Let me see if I can escape this and go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Might be able to go this one here. It's a picture of it here actually doing the actual cutting down. Now, this is pine trees, a little bit softer, but it'll take that tree all the way down the the base. One drawback to it, like I said, if you don't have an extremely high flow unit or you don't have an external power pack with it, the operator has to wait a little bit for some of the harder tree species to get the RPMs back up to continue the grinding operation. But something you don't really use for tree trimming, but it does really good for tree grinding and removal that way. Next thing we have we've had some of these quick cut mowers in our system for quite a while, slope mowers. The chariot style type mowing system that you actually sit in the back of it on it. And versus our radio control slope mower. And you've seen some of these out there in the actual vendor area. It's the Alamo remote control mower. And they're actually getting different heads for it, so more versatility. But show a video clip here of it. That's kind of a heavy duty flail that's on top of it. Does a good job, extremely difficult slopes, has spikes that come out through the tracks then to help it hold on grip. It can be rolled and stuff like that if things too steep on it. But like I said, there are different things you can use for it, buckets and things you can put on that piece of equipment as well. It works well. And this is the chariot style mower, or the Cut Quick. One thing they found out about the two pieces of equipment is the Cut Quick does have a wider deck, so your production rate is going to be a little higher on that one. But you can mow steeper slopes without sliding down the side of the slopes. You can see the operator kind of slips a little bit as he's going down. Then with this system, you can mow a lot steeper slopes with a radio control mower. The cost is vastly different though. The remote control Alamo is a lot more money-wise. And that's also part of the research project. We're looking at the dollars and cents of all these different pieces of equipment and repair cost and things like that. That's all going to be calculated into what we really want to pick out from these different things. This product here, this is in District 7, is our wet blade rotary mower. And what the difference between this one is the boom mower fits on the front of a, has its own separate power pack on the front of a loader. And then what that green tank is on top of it, you can fill it with herbicide. And as the blades cut the vegetation, they apply a dose of herbicide to the cut stem. Now you can use that as a cut stubble treatment on that to control brush. You can put a PGR on that to control additional vegetation growth. There's a lot of different applications with that. We have a couple test strips. It's still out a little bit on that one. We haven't really seen the results yet because we did them early in the year, so we haven't really seen grow back yet. But the machine itself does a good job of cutting the vegetation. But we have to see what the application of the herbicide looks like, though. This is kind of another type of version of that same piece of equipment. Wet blade batwing mower has the same type of blades on it, and we did have pretty good success with it. You can do a PGR or plant growth regulator, which slows down the growth of all vegetation it comes into contact with, and also then put any kind of other broadleaf herbicide in it, or maybe even some woody vegetation herbicide. A picture of it coming up here, maybe. It likes some videos and it doesn't like others. Let me see here. Bring that one up. Yeah, that's just a picture of it, and just like a typical batwing, but once again, it's applying herbicide to the cut stubble underneath that. We did this one here, and like I said, the results were really pretty telling. A lot of teasel vegetation, woody vegetation in this area. After it went through, cut that vegetation down. The strips versus that were just dry cut versus the wet blade cutting, vast difference in what kind of woody vegetation and teasel and other kind of nasties out there that came back. So, the results for that worked really well. Probably a lot of folks have seen the Vecon type forestry mulchers. We have some of those on our skid steers. We've tested a few of these type of pieces of equipment out there. Really need a high flow unit to put these on in order to make them work right. You see some going through, I think, some honeysuckle and some other different type of invasive woody species along the roadway. Does a great job on minor slopes and things like that, as long as you have the good heavy system on it. That's the main thing. You have to have that high flow hydraulics in order to keep that unit operating, keep the revs up on that. But does do a good job. This is one of our other ones. This is in District 11. This is one of our ones where a telescoping saw truck. There's like a Kershaw and a Sky Trim that's out there. A couple different models, basically the same type of unit that telescopes out and does tree trimming work. Here's a picture of it working up here, cutting off limbs. They can actually hear, that's kind of interesting, that the sound of that blade, I don't know if you can hear it very well, but that tone will tell you if that blade is sharp, just if it's cutting through the air, and plus the performance of the blade. But that's how the operator kind of tells if it needs to change the blade on it. But basically cuts off the limbs, and when we first got the machine, it could cut for about an hour, and it took our crews 7 hours to catch up with it just chipping it. So then we had to look at a different project of looking at chippers to be able to keep up with the piece of equipment, to be able to get high production on roadways. The only other drawback with this kind of a piece of equipment is to it for arboricultural methods or for tree trimming proper practices, it leaves a lot of sort of stubs out there. It doesn't allow the tree to heal properly. So there's a little controversy with that one we're working into. But as for production of falling wood on the ground in a hurry, it's a great piece of equipment. This is one of the different chippers we did purchase. Another one you see on the hallway out there was one. It worked well, but this one's it actually has a live feed bed to it, tracks, has its own feed grapple, brings into it, can feed itself. Well, the other big tools we have with that one too is that minitrack with the thumb to be able to grab vegetation from a distance away and bring it to that chipper, because the chipper itself moves pretty slow. And that was one of the things we found out with it too, is it really doesn't go, to really keep up and move around. The operation was a little bulky that way. But for doing areas where we can bring stuff to it and it can move a little bit like this, it worked very well. But eats a lot of wood, that's for sure. Another one we looked at was a forestry bucket truck. And once again, using with the mini hoe with the grapple on it to be able to feed a smaller brush bandit chipper. And that's one of the things we found out is we had smaller work like that to help alleviate back strains and the guys having to go down and up and down the ditch and that and go around some of the stumps and stuff like that, drag and brush. To have that grapple out there really does minimize the amount of injuries and back strains and things like that for dragging up brush. But the thing of the forestry bucket truck is it's still pretty fast, not as fast as the Sky Trim, but the arboricultural cuts are much better with that. And you don't have to go back to do any kind of rework, and your public opinion, more like it's going to be a little higher on that one. We haven't remeasured it yet, but we're getting a lot of internal communications. They do like it better than that, than Stubbs. So kind of recap on this here is, improve sight distance and their safety. The traveling public is a big concern with vegetation management, and to remove all this woody vegetation out. I kind of focus more on it, because that's some of the bigger equipment we had for this project. And in those cases that we've had some issues in that, our state is kind of a funny state in the way that our southeast is heavily wooded and forested, same way that the eastern part of the state. But then on the western side of the state, it's a little more flat and open. So there's some variations with that, but we do have a lot of forested areas to the east side. So it's to get that forestry canopy away from the roadways, provide those open sight vistas is what one of the big purposes we're looking for that. Increasing that time cycle between needs to go back here and do the tree trimming again is always a big thing for us. Decreased vegetation regrowth rates, that was more of the chemistry part of it, of putting on the PGRs and seeing what we could do for those things out there so we don't have to go repeat applications. Also reduce the annual number of mowing cuts and trims required to maintain a right of way, because if we get out there and cut those things down and rather than trim it, from removal of the trees, it's going to reduce our rework out in those different areas, especially with the different herbicides as well, kind of intertwined with that. Okay, froze up on that. I'm just about done here. Yeah, and the whole purpose of the research project, increase ODOT staff knowledge out there, putting everything together, improve the worker safety was a huge piece of that, and also reduce complaints on the roadway. Because we do receive a number of vegetation-related complaints, and we're trying to find out better ways of doing our vegetation management so people don't, it's more appealing to what they have. We've had a lot of rotary mower, flail mower type tree trimming operations. We got some complaints on that. We're looking at different operations committee to improve upon that, but still get the job done. With that, while I'm finished up, I can take questions now, or?
Yes. Questions for Scott?
Yes, sir.
Has EPA limited you on how much broadcast spraying you're allowed to do with any type of herbicides?
The question was, has the EPA limited me on any kind of herbicide applications on how much I can spray out there? And the answer to that is yes on that, and it's by the different herbicides out there. The thing I always stressed in my applicators out there is to always read the label. The label's a law, and there's certain herbicides you can only put so much per year down in certain areas. So that's one of the things you do want to find is that tool in which what kind of a plant you're trying to control and how much you can put out in those areas. So that is very important. Final report. I knew somebody was going to ask me that too, and I should have had that. We're going through, I know this fall, is the final pieces of the actual research. I think the final report is due like around January, February timeframe. And we really didn't have any interim reports on that one. We're going to have a report close to that timeframe we're going to review internally. And then one thing we also do is we open it up to anybody to be able to view, because we have them all videotaped in that or conference called in, of the people to be able to come and listen to the presentation of, in this case, Davie Resource Group. So, I mean, you'll be able to get it at that time. I always try to forward all my information through LTAP and through Clear Roads, or through this one probably more of a No Boundaries project, trying to give to those folks that way. Trying to get the word out.
Any other questions? Scott, thank you.
All right, thank you.